All right, so we are working in chapter 4, lesson 3, multiplying fractions, and we are on page 273. So today we're talking about chameleons. A chameleon's body is about 1/2 the length of its tongue. A certain chameleon has a tongue that is 2/3 of a foot long. Use an area model to show 1/2 of 2/3, or 1/2 times 2/3. So if we take our rectangle here for an area model, and we want to do 1/2 of 2/3. So we'll take our rectangle and we'll divide it into columns. Those will be our thirds. And we'll divide it into rows. Those will be our halves. Okay, so pretend like I just divided that perfectly even. And then if I want 1/2, I'm going to go ahead and shade the 1/2. It doesn't matter. I can do the top 1/2 or the bottom half. I'll just choose the top. And I'm going to shade that with diagonal lines that go bottom left to top right. So that's the 1/2. Okay. So I shaded 1/2. Now I want to shade 2/3. So these are my thirds. So now we're looking at the vertical line. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So if I want to shade 2/3, that'd be these two columns. Or you could do these two columns. It doesn't matter. But the important thing is that you're shading 2 out of the 3. But now, instead of doing my lines, the diagonals going this way, okay, I'm just going to go the opposite direction. So for 2/3, I'm going to do my diagonals the opposite way. Okay, so top left to bottom right. I'm shading 2/3. And then I'm looking at, out of my rectangles, first of all, how many rectangles do I have total? I have 6 total rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many of those were shaded both times when I took 2/3 and 1/2? These two right here. And I'm just going to highlight those to make them stand out a little bit more. So these two rectangles got shaded both times. So we have 2 out of our 6 rectangles were shaded both times. Okay, so 2/6 simplifies to 1/3. So that's our area model. 2/6 simplifies to 1/3. So that's our area model for finding a portion of a portion. So which fraction represents 1/2 times 2/3? Well, we just answered that. It's 1/3. Okay. Okay, then number 4, what is the relationship between the numerators and denominators of the factors and the numerator and denominator of the product? The numerator and denominator of the product is the product of the numerators and denominators of the factors. Okay, so in other words, so when I go ahead and I multiply these, so 1/2 times 2/3, 1/2 of 2/3, or 1/2 times 2/3, my numerator in my answer is going to be the product of these two numerators. Numerator times numerator, 1 times 2 gives me 2. Then my new denominator will be 2 times 3, which gives me 6, 2/6. And then in math, we always simplify because we don't want to have 2 different possible correct answers. We just want to have one agreed upon correct answer. And mathematicians always agree to simplify, so we want the simplest form. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and turn our page. Let's do some more examples. Okay, so pretty cool. The chameleon, its tongue is longer than its body. Pretty awesome. So twice as long. Um, let's go to page 274. And sorry, I'm looking at my pen, kind of went through the paper a little bit, but that's okay. Let's look at example 1. Actually, let's look at our area model. Multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So if I have 2/5 times 1/2, so 2/5 times 1/2. Eventually, we're going to learn how to cross cancel today, but we're not going to do this in these first couple of examples. So we'll talk about cross canceling in just a few moments though. So we go ahead and multiply numerator times numerator. 2 times 1 gives us 2. Denominator times denominator. 5 times 2 gives us 10. So we have 2/10, which we know that can simplify to 1/5. In our area model, and they shaded theirs a little differently. They just kind of drew that, they didn't do the whole shading. I like to shade the whole thing and see which part gets shaded both times. So 1/2, so first of all, the rectangle got divided into halves lengthwise. And then fifths, it got divided into fifths vertically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, 2 rows. So altogether, we had 10 pieces. And that's our denominator before we simplified it. All right. So 1/2, I shade, or I do my shades this way, or my diagonals this way. That's shading half the rectangle. And then 2/5 would be these 2 columns. And then I shade these using diagonals going the opposite way. And how many of my boxes, my rectangles, got shaded both times? 2 of them got shaded both times. Out of how many were there all together? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2/10 of my rectangle was shaded, okay? So our simplified answer though, because we don't want to have 2/10, that's not simplified. Our simplified answer is 1/5. All right, let's look at example 1. And I want to remind you, anywhere you see this tutor button right here, there is a lesson in your, when you go to your digital textbook and you click on this, the tutor section for chapter 4, lesson 3, it'll actually walk you through this problem and explain the whole problem to you. Okay, so we're going to do this problem 1/3 times 1/4. We're going to do it twice. The first time we're going to do it with the area model, and the second time we'll do it with the standard algorithm. So in our area model, 1/3 times 1/4, we draw a triangle, or excuse me, we draw a rectangle. We divide it into thirds one way. They did it vertically here, that's great. And then divide it into fourths the opposite way. Okay, then we want to shade 1/3 and we want to shade 1/4. So 1/3 means you're shading 1 column out of the 3 columns. And then times 1/4, so we're going to shade 1 row out of the 4 rows. So here are the 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just going to shade the top row only. Okay, and out of those 12 squares, how many of them were shaded both times? Just 1 out of the 12 squares were shaded both times. Okay, so 1/12, 1 out of 12 of the squares were shaded both ways, 1/3 of 1/4. And you can also think of it the other way. You can think of it as 1/4 of 1/3. Okay, so here's our third. And we took 1 out of 1/4 of it. Okay, method 2, we're just going to use the standard algorithm. So no physical models, no area models. We're just multiplying it. 1/4 times 1/3. 1/4 times 1/3. Numerator times numerator is 1 times 1, which is 1. Denominator times denominator, 4 times 3, which is 12. Okay, so there's a visual model with the area model, and this is just the standard algorithm. Let's work on the bottom of page 274 and do some more examples together. do examples A, B, and C. Okay, example A, we have 1/2 times 3/5. So 1/2 times 3/5. Okay, so numerator times numerator, 1 times 3 is 3. Denominator times denominator, 2 times 5 is 10. So I have 3/10. And then I always look at my answer to see whether it can be simplified. Okay, so 3 and 10 don't have any common factors, so we're done here, 3/10. Okay, letter B, we have 1/3 times 3/4. So it's just 1/3 times 3/4. We're going to talk about cross canceling on the next page. So if you already know how to cross canceling, just put that on pause for a moment. We're going to come to that on the next page. Okay, so right now we're just doing numerator times numerator. 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now 3/12 is our answer, but it's not our correct answer because it's not simplified. When I look at this fraction, 3/12, the 3 and the 12 have a common factor, and that's a 3. They're both divisible by 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 will give me 1, and 12 divided by 3 will give me 4. So the most simplified answer and the only correct answer is 1/4. This answer would be wrong. We always have to simplify, because mathematicians and scientists, we don't want to have two possible correct answers. Oh, it could be 3/12 or it could be 1/4. No, we want to have one agreed upon correct answer. We always simplify. Okay, example C, 2/3 times 5/6. Okay, and again, if you already learned how to cross cancel, that's awesome, but just hold on, we're going to look at that on the very next page. So don't cross cancel yet. We're going to be doing that the rest of our lives though, okay? So this is the last problem where you're not cross canceling. Okay, numerator times numerator, 2 times 5 is 10. Denominator times denominator, 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, 10 and 18 are both even. We know all even numbers are divisible by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. So our correct answer is 5/9. All right, let's go to the top of page 275. All right, so now we're going to talk about some cross canceling. Simplify before multiplying. If the numerators and denominators have a common factor, you can simplify before you multiply. Remember that factors are two or more numbers that are multiplied together to form a product, okay? So when we have 2/3 times 5/6, we look at the numbers that are diagonal from one another. Okay, I'm just going to write it over here, 2, so you can see it happening, 2/3 times 5/6. So we look at the 5 and the 3 that are diagonal from one another. They do not have any common factors. Okay, the only factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. Dividing by 1 doesn't simplify at all. So the 1 doesn't help us. When I look at the 2 and the 6, those do have a common factor, and we're always looking at diagonals. So 2 and 6 are both even, which means they're both divisible by 2. So I'm going to cross cancel before I multiply. So I'm going to look at these two numbers. They're both divisible by 2. Okay, again, we're looking at the diagonals. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So where I used to have a 2 and a 6, I now have a 1 and a 3. So that's called cross canceling. And that's really important because it makes our numbers that we're multiplying smaller, and that makes our answers more simplified. Now we still may need to simplify in the end, but it just gives us much smaller numbers to work with, and we're less likely to make mistakes with our arithmetic when we're working with the smaller numbers. Okay, so it saves us steps and makes us more likely to have the correct answer, less likely to make arithmetic errors. So now we multiply. 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 3 is 9. So we have 5/9. And then we look at the 5/9 and check to see if 5 and 9 have any common factors, and they do not. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and the factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9, which none of those are factors of the 5 except the 1. And again, the 1 doesn't help us to simplify. So our answer is 5/9. Okay, let's do example 2 together. And this is all worked out right here. This is available online if you want to watch the tutorial online as well. I'm going to work it out in this space right here. So anything I am writing down, I want you to be writing down. Okay, remember, these are your notes. 3/4 times 5/6. 3/4 times 5/6. So first, before I multiply, I want to see if I can simplify by cross canceling. 5 and 4 do not have any common factors. 5 and 4 do not have any common factors. When I look at the 3 and the 6, the 3 and the 6, they do have a common factor. They are both divisible by 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So remember, we're always looking at the diagonal. Okay? Numerator, then we multiply. This cannot be simplified. 5 and 4 don't have any common factors. So now we multiply. Numerator times numerator. 1 times 5 is 5. Denominator times denominator. 4 times 2 is 8. And then before I box my answer, I always check to see if I can simplify further. What are the factors of 5? 1 and 5. What are the factors of 8? 1, 2, 4, and 8. So they don't have any common factors. I can't simplify that further. So the simplified answer is 5/8. Okay, let's look at example 3. 4/9 times 18. So I'm going to write that 18 is 18 over 1, and then I'm going to multiply. Let me adjust the camera a little bit better. 4/9 times 18 over 1. So 4 and 1, there's nothing to simplify there. 9 and 18 are both divisible by 9, so I can cross cancel here. 9 and 18 are both divisible by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 18 divided by 9 is 2. So where I used to have a 9 and an 18, I now have a 1 and a 2 in that order. Now I can multiply. Numerator times numerator. 4 times 2 is 8. Denominator times denominator. 1 times 1 is 1. So I just have 8 over 1. When we have a denominator of 1, we don't really need that 1. We can just simplify this to 8. Okay, let's go to got it D. Okay, got it D. We have 3/4 times 4/9. 3/4 times 4/9. And I rewrite this just so I have some space out here for my cross canceling and I'm not running into the letters here or that problem there. Okay, so I look at my diagonals. 4 and 4 are both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I used to have a 4 and a 4. Now I have a 1 and a 1. 3 and 9 are both divisible by 3. 3 and 9 are both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So my cross canceling is done. Now I will multiply. Numerator times numerator. 1 times 1 is 1. Denominator times denominator. 1 times 3 is 3. Before I box my answer, I check to see whether I can simplify this further. 1/3. No, there are no common factors between 1 and 3, so this is as simplified as it can be, 1/3. Letter E, 5/6 times 9/10. So I'm just going to do this one in a different color so these two problems don't blend together. Five six times 9/10. Okay. 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5. 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. Numerator times numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. Denominator times denominator. 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 and 4 don't have any common factors, so our answer is 3/4. Okay, letter F, 3/5 times 10. I'm going to write my 10 as 10 over 1. Okay, 3 and 1 do not have any common factors. 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5. 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Numerator times numerator. 3 times 2 is 6. Denominator times denominator. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 over 1 can just be written as 6. Okay, let's turn the page to 276. All right, Frank is mowing the lawn. Frank had half of the lawn left to mow. On Saturday, he mowed 2/3 of what was left. What was left? 1/2. So on Saturday, he mowed 2/3 of 1/2. What fraction of the entire lawn did he mow on Saturday? So again, he had half of it left to mow. And then on Saturday, he mowed 2/3 of what was left. So the question is this: what is 2/3 of 1/2? What is 2/3 of 1/2? So remember mathematically, of means multiply. So this problem is actually 2/3 times 1/2. 2 over 3 times 1 over 2. Let me make that 3 a little bit better. Okay, then I check, can I cross cancel? Yes, 2 and 2 are both divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Numerator times numerator. 1 times 1 is 1. Denominator times denominator. 3 times 1 is 3. So I have 1/3 that cannot be simplified further. So Frank mowed 1/3 of the lawn on Saturday. Okay, so that was chapter 4, lesson 3, multiplying fractions.